All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about one of the most frustrating parts of dating, something we've probably all been through. Why do we ignore huge warning signs in a relationship only to see them perfectly clear when it's all over?
Sound familiar? I think we've all been there, right? You're looking back at a relationship that's ended, and suddenly it's like all these red flags are just, wow, waving in your face. And you're just thinking, how on earth did I miss that? It's a universal feeling, but the reasons behind it are way more complicated than you'd think.
Okay, first things first, let's get one thing crystal clear. If this has happened to you, it does not mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean you're naive. As the Carrie Sender puts it so well, it means you're human. You are hopeful. And yeah, you were probably looking at this person through a very powerful filter, the good old rose-colored glasses.
So let's really dig into this whole rose-colored glasses thing, because it's not just some cute phrase, you know? It's a real psychological phenomenon that seriously messes with our judgment, especially when we're excited about someone new.
And what's wild is that this isn't a passive thing. We are literally, without even knowing it, playing the role of editor for our own reality. Our brain wants the relationship to succeed so badly that it starts to, downplay the bad stuff and turn up the volume on the good stuff. It's a defense mechanism for our own hopes.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It shows you exactly what we're up against. It's this potent cocktail of our own needs, our fantasies about what love should be, that spark of chemistry, and just a ton of wishful thinking. When you're swimming in all that, seeing clearly is, it's pretty much impossible.
So why? Why do we even put these glasses on to begin with? It's one thing to know we do it, but it's way more powerful to understand the actual psychological buttons being pushed that keep those glasses glued to our faces, even when things start to feel off.
Well, it really comes down to how we're built. Our brains are fundamentally wired to seek connection. So first, we project. We paint this picture of who we want them to be. Then that initial chemistry hits, and man, it feels so real, but it can totally blind us. After a while, something called relationship inertia kicks in. It just feels harder to rock the boat than to just go with it. And all the while, we're clinging to those really good moments, right? Using them as a shield to block out all the painful ones.
Okay, so that's the basic human psychology. But now let's throw another wrench in the works, the modern dating world. It adds this whole other layer of pressure that can make ignoring red flags feel less like a mistake and more like a survival strategy.
And this is where YouTuber Courtney Ryan brings up a huge point, the scarcity mentality. It's this feeling that your dating options are super limited. So you stop asking, is this person actually good for me? And you start thinking, well, I better make this work because who knows when the next chance will come along. It completely flips the script from a place of choice to a place of fear.
And look, this isn't just some vague feeling people have. There's actually data that can make this feel very, very real. Ryan points to a famous dating app study where women rated a staggering 80% of male profiles as unattractive. Now, regardless of what you think about that study, you can see how numbers like that could easily feed into a scarcity mindset, pushing people to lower their standards and ignore things they shouldn't.
And what happens? It turns into this nasty domino effect. As Ryan points out, when you tolerate bad behavior because you're afraid of being alone, that behavior doesn't just stay the same. It usually gets worse. What you permit, you promote. And that ultimately just makes the whole dating scene worse for everybody.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the why we do this. Now let's get down to brass tacks. What exactly are we ignoring? What do these red flags actually look like? Because we're not talking about little quirks here. We're talking about genuinely destructive patterns that we end up justifying.
So, The Modest Man breaks these down really well. First up, you've got the stuff that's all about control. Sometimes it's obvious, like telling you who you can and can't see. But often it's much sneakier, like using the silent treatment as a weapon to punish you. And of course, there's gaslighting, that awful tactic where they make you question your own memory, your own reality, until you feel like you're the one who's going crazy.
Then there's this really insidious category, emotional invalidation. This is when your feelings are constantly brushed aside or even made fun of. Your partner should be your biggest fan, right? But instead, they're criticizing your hobbies, or they seem annoyed when you succeed. And here's the huge tell. You just feel completely exhausted after being with them. A good relationship should fill you up, not empty you out.
And finally, we have the huge, glaring signs of just plain disrespect and imbalance. This is the partner who never, ever says, "I'm sorry." It's always someone else's fault. It's you feeling like you have to walk on eggshells all the time just to keep the peace. It's you making excuses for them to your friends. And maybe the biggest red flag of all, that sinking feeling that you don't even know who you are anymore.
Okay, that was heavy.
We've laid out the problem, we've looked at the warning signs. So, what do we do about it? How do we actually start to fix this? This is the most important part. How we can trade in those hopeful glasses for ones that see with honesty.
This right here, this might be the most important distinction you can ever make. Anyone can make a mistake. We're all human, we all have bad days. But a pattern is different. A pattern is a consistent, repeated behavior. A pattern is a choice. You have to stop explaining away the individual incidents and start recognizing the pattern they're creating.
And if you're struggling to see things clearly, here's a little trick. Ask yourself this one simple question. It instantly cuts through all the emotional noise. If your best friend came to you and described this exact situation, what would you tell them? You'd tell them they deserve better, wouldn't you? So the real question is, why would you want any less for yourself?
So, let's make it actionable. Here are 3 things you can start doing right now. 1. Radical self-honesty. Be honest about their actions, not the story you've created about their potential. 2. Just slow down. That early intensity can hide a lot of problems. Time is your best friend because time always reveals the truth. And 3. Listen to people who aren't wearing your glasses. Trust your friends. Trust a therapist. They see things you can't.
And, this all comes back to a core idea from Courtney Ryan's work. This isn't about being picky or having some impossible checklist. Having standards for how you expect to be treated, with kindness, with consistency, with respect, that's not picky. That's self-respect, period.
So I want to leave you with this one last thought from the Carey Center because it just wraps everything up perfectly. Stop looking at who they could be someday and start looking at who they are showing you they are right now. Stop listening to the excuses and start paying attention to the actual impact their behavior is having on you. That is how you finally take the glasses off. That's how you start seeing the truth.